Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. Every American is aware Donald Trump is facing multiple indictments as he runs for president in 2024. The media coverage has been breathless, a constant assault on Trump, portrayed as a scheming felon by our overzealous establishment media. On the other hand, most Americans are fairly unaware that our sitting president right now is currently facing two different federal investigations, one for his handling of classified documents, which you never hear about, the other an investigation into his son, which very much involves Joe Biden's actions while he was vice president of the United States. Think about that for a moment. The sitting president facing two federal investigations, and most Americans never hear a word about them from the legacy media that controls most of the ideology of this country. Americans who are aware of the Hunter Biden scandal simply think Republicans in the House are just making things up, making up nonsense and yelling about it on conservative TV shows. Establishment media is enforcing that narrative. Media watchdog Newsmax'Ss reporting ABC, CBS, NBC have ignored Biden's Burisma bribery for 65 days straight, ignoring undeniable evidence, bank records, FBI sources, business partners who work directly with the Bidens. Our country transforming into a left-wing authoritarian state in real time. Our major broadcast institutions are refusing to cover one of the biggest political scandals the country has ever seen, while their little brothers are actively lying to discredit that scandal, just like this.
All they seem to do is want to investigate this, that, and the other thing. That doesn't help the American people.
Well,
the contrast of yesterday, a former president being indicted for trying to deny an election, and this president today talking about investing in America, that's going to sink in, and it's our job to make sure it sinks in.
Well, I mean, their investigations are just so patently stupid. I'm embarrassed for them.
These investigations, they don't matter to the average American people. This is the right wing, the hard right wing talking to each other. Let them keep talking to each other.
Oh, Chuck. And Joe Scarborough, cherry picking from 1,000 pounds of evidence of corruption, finding the tiny little morsels that he can sow some doubt with, while he breathlessly applauds Joe Biden's horrific record and abysmal approval rating. Throw another million at Joe Scarborough, and he'd do that in North Korea for Kim Jong-un. A very revealing piece in The Spectator this week. Media begins shoring up Biden's network flank. A very honest look at the establishment press and their rush to hire several Biden White House staffers in the run-up to the next election. A quote here. MSNBC has a former Biden press secretary who spends her show interviewing Biden administration officials, and now CNN has hired both former lead communications directors, as Biden himself begins to mount a re-election campaign which will not so secretly rely heavily upon allies in the media to ignore scandals and questions of mental and physical fitness that come with an advanced age, and to keep Donald Trump and his mounting legal troubles front and center in the living rooms, gyms, and restaurants of the American people. The establishment press is blindly supporting a candidate that won't even talk to them, is what's so amazing. They ignore his corruption scandal, and they still can't get access. They still can't get a question in. They're still yelled at by the press department. Think about that level of power for Joe Biden, how incredible that is. He's treated like a king by minions who voted for him while being trusted to inform the masses. But the king is so very clearly compromised at this point. You even have Trump now calling him a Manchurian candidate.
I believe we have a compromised president. He was bribed, and now he's being blackmailed. He's a Manchurian candidate. China has paid him a fortune. Just think of what China has gotten for all that money. Biden shut down my administration's initiative targeting Chinese spies in the United States. He shut it down cold. He let China off the hook for COVID. He shut down the investigation into the origins of the China virus. He did nothing as China began setting up bases in Cuba, taking over South America, and threatening Taiwan. They even took over the Panama Canal.
Now, obviously, he's got an incentive to make those claims, but the former president right there is laying out many different actions that Joe Biden has taken that have been beneficial to the Chinese Communist Party, which has paid Joe Biden and his family millions of dollars that they used a whole bunch of secret accounts to move around, which is known as money laundering. These are facts. that are almost totally unreported by the establishment press in this country. We're living under a regime, and the truth is Donald Trump is the reason the press refuses to be any kind of a check on Joe Biden. The fear of his return means that Joe Biden must not be criticized in any way because the media spent 7 years manufacturing chaos around Trump. His bombastic style and salacious behavior interpreted as racism and fascism by a press that was really just terrified of his populist agenda. So they indoctrinated their viewers for years and years and years. They terrified them into believing Trump was akin to Hitler. Although every country protects their border, they told you that building a border wall was xenophobic. Well, our current situation is the alternative. Fentanyl overdoses by the thousands and a migrant crisis so bad that New York City Democrats are screaming for help and condemning Joe Biden. How'd that work out? Many Democrats would love a wall right about now. They lie. Just like they lied about Trump's words after Charlottesville, they lie about pretty much everything. They had to create a villain. The outrage of Trump was manufactured, and it was manufactured very well. A recent poll from Chicago found 30 million Americans, this is the estimate, 30 million, believe that violence is justified to keep Donald Trump from becoming the president again. 30 million people. It's 10% of the country. That's how easy it is to brainwash the masses. And that same media that created all that fury is now making a daily conscious decision to not report any damaging information about the sitting president of the United States. All right, when we're looking for a nonpartisan take, there is no better than independent journalist Matt Taibbi, and he joins me again tonight. Matt, good to have you back on. I want to talk about the situation between the two, how these two stories are being covered. Right now we have Trump facing 4 indictments. And on the right, and you know this, the consensus is this is a political takedown of a politician that gravely threatens the establishment. I wanted to get your take on that.
On Trump's indictments?
Yeah, and just are these warranted? Do you feel the political weight here, or do you believe that these are warranted indictments?
I think the first 2 cases were clearly politicized. I don't think that it would be very difficult to argue that they weren't. They would almost certainly not happen if the person was not Donald Trump. There's a little bit more substance in the other 2 cases, and I think most lawyers would say there's something in there, but I also don't think that those cases would likely have been prosecuted if it weren't for Trump. However, that's what we have a legal system for, is to sort all those things out. The thing that bothers me the most, however, is the uneven treatment of these 2 stories in the press. I mean, I grew up in a news environment where even if you disliked the candidate, or if you liked a candidate, you had to at least go through the pro forma exercise of covering the scandals they were involved with, and they haven't done that with Biden.
Well, I went to journalism school in an environment where no matter who it was, when you had the kind of dirt that we have on Joe Biden, I mean, this is what journalists live for. And I mean, as anybody that's been in this business during slow times, and there are slow years where you just can't find a frickin' story and you're killing yourself for news, to have something like this on the president of the United States and be ignoring it, you have to wonder how that can even happen at a place that calls itself a media outlet or a news establishment.
Yeah, and the Hunter Biden episode is particularly amazing because the reason that was sort of given, or the subtext for why it was okay to suppress the New York Post expose about Hunter Biden in 2020 is because there was nothing there. It's not a real story. Right. It's going to unfairly skew the election results if we put this out there. Well, now we're finding out that there actually is quite a bit there, and there's a lot to investigate, and there are facts that need to be looked into. There's a whole string of these shell companies that apparently existed entirely to be receptacles of money for Hunter Biden, and we need to find out what the terms of those arrangements were. But they told us back then that there was nothing there, and they were lying about that, just as they were lying about it being Russian disinformation.
Exactly right. It's a very, very bizarre time in this business. As an independent journalist, one of the few that's left, I think you know that more than anyone. Matt Taibbi, we appreciate you as always. Thank you.
Thanks very much, sir.